don't ever play with guns, but I shot a man in Reno just to watch him. You know where it goes. It's really dark. And I'm 6 years old, singing at the top of my lungs about shooting and going to prison. And so my mom, bless her heart, she is taking me and my brother to church every Sunday, trying her best to keep us out of prison, while Dad's teaching us songs about how to get there. So we have a little Olivet Baptist Church is the church that my mom's taking me and my brother to every Sunday, and Dad's sleeping in. And not because he's opposed to me. He grew up going to church. We're in the buckle of the Bible Belt, but it was not a part of his life as an adult. He just kind of left it behind in his childhood and was chasing music. And so he was out late Saturday night. So Sunday morning was too early. He'd sleep in. My mom would take me and my brother. Well, our pastor, Brother David McMichael, the pastor of Olivet Baptist Church, knew where my dad's bedroom was, and he would go by on his way to church. True story. He would sneak up to the window where my dad was sleeping, and he'd bang on the window and yell, "Herb Chapman, get out of bed and come to church with your family." And they call that door-to-window evangelism. It's very effective because my dad came to church. He finally did. Maybe it was to get Brother David off of his back and off of his porch and his window, but he came, and he came for a whole week. We had a revival in our little church, our little home town there, and it wasn't a preacher evangelist. It was men and women who just had their lives changed by the power of the love of God, Jesus, a relationship with Jesus. And so my dad came. I don't know what all other than God just worked in his heart and arranged it such that my mom convinced him to come to he came the first night, and then he came the second night, the third night. So for the whole week. And by the end of this week, something started to change in my home. I saw something start to change pretty dramatically. And the things that I saw that were really different, I'd grown up in a home where there was a lot of fighting, a lot of conflict. My dad had grown up without a father. His dad died when he was probably 8 or 9 years old, left home when my dad was about 3. So my dad never knew his father, really, never had a relationship with him, met him twice that he could remember very briefly. And sadly, alcohol had taken him away from his family and then eventually destroyed his body and his life. And so my dad grew up without a father. My grandmother never remarried, and he had this big hole in his heart, and this shame and this confusion and anger and all of that. And so married my mom. She was 16 years old, and got married, had my brother very shortly after they got married. And so they were, just two kids trying to raise kids, and it was a mess. And so I experienced a lot of that. But suddenly when these fights would break out in my home, my dad did something I'd never seen him do. He'd stop. He'd calm down, he'd take a breath, he'd say, "You know what, we need to pray." And we would get on our knees together as a family, and my dad would talk to God. And they weren't fancy prayers, they weren't religious sounding words. He'd just say, "God, I don't know how to be a father. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be a good husband. Will you please show me, teach me?" And so I began to get a taste of grace and forgiveness and just the power of the gospel and the transformational power of God's love. And so now we're going to church together as a family. It's, every Sunday.